All right, in the age of AI, is your real estate website platform going to be doomed? And the answer for a lot of you using all-in-ones is it's going to depend, but I'm going to try to give you some benchmarks inside this video that are going to let you know if your tool is even remotely keeping up with your agentic future as in terms of AI. But before I get into that, two things. One, I'm Robert Newman. I'm the founder of InboundREM. We are an SEO and AIO GEO company. We've been around a very long time. I'm super easy to research. All you got to do is go to inboundrem.com. If for some reason at any point in this talk you decide that you want to schedule a meeting with me, go ahead and click the link. It'll be down below in the description of the video. All right, without any further ado, what are we going to cover? Well, you can see here the list of all the platforms that I have listed. These are all-in-one platforms. Ylopo, Geeks, Chime, kvCORE, BoomTown, CINC, Placester, Pro Agent Websites, Agent Image, Real Estate Webmasters, Luxury Presence, SEO Interactive. Between all of these providers, there's over 150,000 real estate websites represented, and very, very likely that one of them has your business. And here's the question. Many of these, if not most of these platforms, all market themselves as either an all-in-one marketing and lead generation tool, an all-in-one CRM tool. And for those of you who are out there in the woods sitting here looking at AI and going, oh my God, it's so confusing. It's supposed to be doing so much. How does my website even play into this? Is it keeping up? This video is for you, okay? I did this video because I'm getting asked that question almost every day. I'm getting asked that question on my videos, and historically speaking, agents are not really vocal when it comes to watching content from guys like me. Boy, is that changing fast. Getting a lot of commentary about all sorts of things. But in this specific video, I'm going to try to frame the education in such a way that you'll be able to measure for yourself whether or not your real estate website platform is likely doomed for irrelevancy. So the only way to really understand this is, and I decided to do a deep dive on CR Interactive. Now, a couple of things about CR Interactive. Years ago, it sold out to AGS, which is like a company that goes out and buys what are called SaaS platforms, software as a service. And they bought CR Interactive from Ben. I used to be far more familiar with Ben. I do not know the CEO over at CR Interactive. As a matter of fact, the current CEO of CR Interactive is Peter McLaughlin. And before that, he was the CFO of TradeHounds, and he is an operating executive at ASG, which probably means that maybe he cashed out over at TradeHounds and decided to open up a company buying SaaS companies. But I don't know that for a fact. I'm just guessing. All right, obviously younger guy, so on and so forth. By most real estate marketing standards, fairly limited amount of experience inside dealing with real estate agents specifically. Construction, yes. Real estate agents, not so much. Or at least that wasn't his focus. All right. So when we look at, we're just going to look at them. We look at CR Interactive, young guy, definitely tech forward. You can see that he is making some moves. So I asked the question, here, I'm just going to show you guys the question. I use CR Interactive as the example, and it's going to illustrate for you why we're having this conversation in the first place. How effective will SaaS real estate platforms like CR Interactive be in the era of AI? Okay, reasonable question to ask. Any of you who own any all-in-one system, any of the names that are on my list, except for Agent Image, are somewhat like all-in-ones. All right, this tool spits out a lot of really cool things. So IntelliAgents, IntelliSearch, these are tools that CR Interactive has pushed out onto its platform, along with 4 brand new design elements, all ostensibly with this idea that they're keeping up with the times. Another thing that's happening in the era of agentic AI is that AI can now automate approximately 37% of tasks, leading to a huge amount of support. The main thing that it's doing almost overnight is it's qualifying leads. It is looking at user behavior, including things like how many searches you've done, what have you looked at, and grading leads. And kvCORE has this, and currently supposedly has this. But here's the thing, and this is what's not being addressed. In the case of CR Interactive, they're doing something called Ylopo. Ylopo is just one of these grading systems that I've already talked to you about. It's also saying it's using built-in triggers and predictive models. Now, I have recently reviewed the platform from the inside out using an actual subscription. And the thing is that most of the tools that are being used here, and those of you who have a CR Interactive site will confirm this for me, I don't think they're being used by the average agent. The only people who has been using CR Interactive as an actual cold calling or even warm calling platform. And that is my frustration and why I'm doing this dive in the first place. Okay. I don't know of anybody using Share Interactive anymore. Why? Because they have an extremely expensive Twilio connection that goes through them where they're still charging a profit. And that has not changed. That's in place as of the last time I looked, which was under 60 days ago. So when you start saying, do they have AI? Yes, their AI supports you making calls out of their platform. You probably won't want to make calls out of their platform. And this leads into some of my comments about AI. Another thing that this said that was really fascinating is that AI said, well, most SaaS platforms is moving away from a per seat pricing towards outcome-based or consumption-based models, e.g. charging per qualified lead or successful transaction. If that was true of any of these platforms that we're going to talk about, any of them on the list, I think that the tune and tone of my whole entire video would change. But I have not yet heard of a single one of these people on the list going to a price per outcome model. And why is that, guys? Why is that for everybody watching this? Usually real estate flows 5-10 years behind everybody else in terms of technology. Well, you have to be an agent who truly doesn't pick up their phone or look at anything to not understand that AI has changed the real estate marketplace and realtor marketing marketplace almost overnight. You must have some kind of intuition that that's going on. And I, who work with clients who have most of these tools, because as an SEO provider, we oftentimes are put into the position where somebody like you calls me and goes, hey, can you work with a Share Interactive website? And back in the day, I could. These days, it's getting harder and harder. It's getting harder and harder with all of these platforms. They're just not keeping up with the times. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about luxury presence. Luxury presence is tech forward, talk about AI all the time, have 3 or 4 highly qualified leaders in place when it comes to talking about search marketing. But their platform, which I just reviewed and dropped less than 2 weeks ago, it is good for a certain type of agent. Go look at my review, or maybe my team will be really smart and link the review in the description of this video. But go ahead and watch that review. And the reason I'm going so far is that this luxury presence, Share Interactive, they're what are called locked down systems. If you want something to interact with Share Interactive, you have to get Share Interactive's permission. Same thing with luxury presence, same thing with real estate webmasters, same thing with agent image, same thing with pro agent websites, same thing with Placester, same thing with CINC, same thing with BoomTown, same thing with kvCORE, same thing with Chime, same thing with Ylopo, and same thing with Geeks. That means that most of these guys are literally being throttled because AI is advancing so fast. They can't keep up with all the requests for various interactive models or various tools that are going to connect into the website. You've got like CRM connections, like Go High Level, super popular, but not even all of these guys allow data have what's called a native API for Go High Level, even though it's massively popular and catching on in real estate like wildfire. And we've built a custom CRM on top of Go High Level. So it is part of our decentralized toolkit. Because, and why do I say that? Decentralized is becoming more and more the only way that I see forward, and it's not a perfect way, it's just a way to try to stay relevant in a market that's changing so fast, like the best of us is having a hard time keeping up. These guys are not keeping up at all, none of them, because it's really hard to do that. I just had a call today with a provider of lead intelligence that is based on traffic. So it scrapes that information, looks at it, remarkets and retargets, advertises to that lead, all based off a website visit, and then, believe it or not, serves up an agentic AI response so that once somebody has clicked on a couple pages, they track them around, and then when they are in the proper spot, they start having agentic AI email them and message them. It's crazy intelligent. But like every one of these services that we're talking about, it requires a snippet on the website. And even I, who am a fairly forward-thinking guy, am reluctant to put yet another snippet on my website, even though the toolkit that they're promising me sounds amazing. These toolkits that are sounding amazing, Go Fly Dragon, Join Bulletproof, I can go on and on. These guys are all popping up in the last year or two. There's no way that these traditional providers who hold probably the keys to your website are keeping up with it or even coming close. What they're doing is they're working on some kind of internal solution that's going to try to keep you glued to their solution. Like Chime has a chatbot already, and it's decent, but it's all they have. And they have a very closed down system. Working with the Chime site is extremely difficult to do if you're trying to do outside integration into the core platform. The same thing goes with kvCORE. And if any of you own this website, like if any of you own a luxury presence website, you'll know exactly what I mean. You probably can't get a hold of us for a support agent if you want to change your branding or your logo, let alone you say that I have something I want to plug into my site and I want to put a snippet in the HTML. Hell no, that's not going to happen. Same thing goes for most of the providers on this list. And what does that lead me to say? It leads me to paint the position that I've taken in the industry. And this is blatantly self-serving for all of you watching the video. I understand that. I just don't see another solution. And if other people see solutions, by all means, drop them in the comments. I think that the best answer that you're going to get is a decentralized solution that you actually control, because it's the only way for an agent to take responsibility and to press forward with, like, we're integrating a lot of fellow things and chatbot things, and the requests are coming in from our clients who ostensibly own and control their site. And I'm not going to lie to any of you. I've got 27 inquiries into my dev team that are behind right now. We're running about a 1-week queue just to get those kinds of requests done, because we add these code snippets and features to our client sites, but we are getting it done. And granted, if we were to scale to the point where we had 8,000 clients like a lot of these guys do, we'd be in trouble because I only have 150 active clients. It's very different than all these guys. But I still think that the only solution is to scale into a presence that the customer has a reasonable amount of control over, and certainly has some kind of ownership or licensing stake that says that they have control. Because let me tell you what you all are going to discover if you haven't already. The newest, greatest thing is going to feel like it's hitting your inbox every single week. And very little of it is going to come from these established providers. There are some exceptions, like some people who are doing a really great job of marketing, like Luxury Presence, what they think is newest and exciting and really cool. They're coming out with a CRM. Sierra Interactive just came out with IntelliSearch. I have no idea what Real Estate Webmasters is doing. Agent Image really doesn't usually embrace the bleeding edge because they make pretty websites. That's all they do. And if that's all you want, great solution for that. You start talking about integrations, marketing tool, lead generation, any of that. Now, definitely should not be very high on your list because they will not integrate very well with all the things that you need, even though they do build on WordPress and they do, under very specific circumstances, allow real ownership of the site. But they don't leave your installs unlocked so that you can install or use things, nor do they have a responsive enough customer service feature so that you can talk to an agent, discuss the pros and cons, and then kind of like get the permission gate raised. Frankly, they don't charge enough to do any of that. So again, I'm not throwing them under the bus. It's just the way their model has been built. It's not built to provide those solutions to their 8,000 customers. Pro Agent Websites is a great, great tool, the cheapest, least expensive, highest value tool on this list. I hate throwing them into a list of things that may be like outdated or outmoded, but it's an individual developer building a really amazing tool. It's $60 a month. It's the cheapest by far on the list. You get IDX included for that amount, and the websites don't look bad, but there's no way. There's no way he's got the bandwidth ability to scale into the AI market. He can probably do a couple of very high level integrations, and I suspect that he will because my interactions with this person have always been very responsive, and he's smaller and more realtor first minded. That's why he built a tool that's so inexpensive. He's providing way more value than most of the people on this list. Placester is also excellent. And I am the biggest fan of Seth Price that any of you will ever find, who I think is the head of product right now. He was a couple years ago when I last talked to him. The tool itself is being built on WordPress multi-sites. They lock it down. They're too big to pivot. I don't think that you're going to be able to do almost any maneuvering that you want to do. CINC is a great tool, remains a great tool for transaction management and some other very, very complex things, splitting commissions, doing a lot of back-end work, all of which AI hasn't yet really kind of moved into. So surprisingly, they will probably remain more resilient, but they're not a great marketing tool. They probably, who knows what they're doing with Agentic AI, if they're doing anything at all. They should be. They'd be a good candidate. I just don't know that they are. BoomTown is basically kvCORE or all under the BoldTrails label. Both of these combined are now under BoldTrails. BoldTrails is doing more than almost everybody, at least on paper. But when I went and looked at the videos that were posted, like this one, and I reviewed 2 or 3, everything I was looking at seemed underwhelming. And I don't know, as a cloud provider who is providing one tool to all the many, like 20, 30,000 people that use it, including most of, like half of EXP, they're able to put down on paper and make changes in real time that most of these other providers are not. However, I have not seen that actually be more efficient. I haven't seen their Agentic AI really work. I haven't seen a lot of things that on paper they promise. They've also promised lead qualification methodologies, which this is probably one of the very few tools on this list where maybe people try to use it as an outbound calling tool. I don't know what their cost structure is. I haven't reviewed kvCORE in quite a while. The last time I reviewed it was so painful because it was moving so slowly on the install that I was using that I basically developed a resistance in my mind to going back in and using it again at a very, very deep level and reviewing it because it was just so horribly slow. And it took me so many hours to do the review because I was trying to open up each feature, so on and so forth. Do not know if that's true. It's been too many years for me to say that that is still the case. It certainly was at the time I did the last review. And which would also mean, by the way, for all of you, cloud provider locked down. That means if they're not giving you this solution, it's very unlikely they can make an exception for you. That's the problem. The centralized cloud control means that they can do things that most of these other providers can't, and they can do them in real time. But at the same time, it means that they cannot very easily make exceptions for any single install. That means that no matter who you are, what kind of business you do, or how big your website is, or how big your budget is, can you really get any particular thing like a type of AI integrated in here? And there's so many, it's almost beyond counting. Like just the lead follow-up tool that I just mentioned. If you wanted to install it, probably impossible. Facebook Pixel, maybe they've got a method for that at this point, which means that you might be able to remarket and retarget using kvCORE, which is great. But these days, remarketing and retargeting is almost always done by Agentic AI, which just means there's a smart tool that's part of the advertising that leads directly into a funnel. Somebody clicks or advertises or stays a long enough time in your advertisement, and now the agent actually reaches out to them like they're a real life human being and tries to qualify for interest. And when all of that's done, then seamlessly puts something into a CRM and oftentimes even calendars it for you. And certainly it's just a step away. Your agent can also be trained to send like a manager or leader type and note about how many of these are being created. And then the agent themselves would then call a qualified list of people that were all fairly high up in the measurement and being installed into their calendar proactively. That's the direction. So if anything I've said is not happening for you and you're not hearing any murmurs that it's gonna happen for you, this is the reason why I'm doing something so clickbaity. Are your real estate all-in-one platforms doomed in the age of AI? And then these two down here, slightly lower risk. Why did I put that? Because both Ylopo and Real Geeks are building off Square, and Square is more tech forward than most of these platforms. They have more native integrations, they have more things going on than all of these guys, because they're also much bigger companies. And so whatever they roll out for their particular website, you get a little piece of that. However, Square on a scale of 1 to 10 is still like a 4 in terms of being an SEO platform of any kind. And it's still terribly, terribly antiquated in a lot of things that real estate agents need. And I will do at some point a Square review because both of these guys have, I don't know, Ylopo has like 10,000 customers on it, and Real Geeks probably has about 6,000. So 16,000 customers using Square, whether you know it or not. And I will probably do a review when I can find a good Square install. I just did one on Wix, and I recently launched the one on Wix, and Wix and Square fall into the same bucket. So if you're curious, just look at my Wix review and then maybe go and kind of equate some of that knowledge to Square, because it's the same deal. And you certainly are going to have a hard time if you don't have a native integration that works with Square automatically. So whatever they approve, which they'll approve for their own reasons, you are in trouble. And there's a lot, I mean a lot of integrations out there, too many for me to have even reviewed. All I can tell you is Claude and Perplexity, they're doing some incredible things with Agentic AI. And there are already examples of people in my own customer list using Agentic AI to just incredible results. Talking qualified leads, constant lead flow, all the things that all of you probably want and care about, and happening already, but using tools that very well may not integrate or integrate well with any of this. And that right there is the challenge. You need to have more control over your tools in order to take advantage of most forms of AI. I'm not saying all, they will all come up with something that has the word AI in it. But whether or not it really yields you any results is the problem. And we're all testing. We're all in the process of figuring out what works. None of us has a solution. Some of us, like me, have 16 years of experience. And there are other people out there that have lots of experience, not like the CEO of Sierra Interactive. He may have a lot of tech experience, but there is nobody out there that has more than 2 to 2.5 years with AI because that's how long it's been around. So we're all testing and figuring out what's works. So one of these guys might figure it out. The question that I have for you and what you should be asking yourself is, are you getting the impression that your provider is doing a lot of testing and doing a lot of trialing? Because if the answer is yes, maybe you stay with them. If you have heard nothing about this, or what you've looked at seems like Chime, where they have a chatbot that's AI based, but it's so-so and it's really the only thing they've got. I don't know. It might be time for you to reevaluate who you're partnered with, because all that's going to happen is if they're not driven to step into this, most of these platforms will have to re-engineer themselves entirely to take advantage of the AI revolution. So in any significant way that matters to you as a real estate agent. That's my opinion. It's just an opinion. If you'd like to get more in detail or review your specific platform, which may be on this list, and ask me for more information, throw up a case study, feel free. Schedule a call with me. We'll dive into it. That's it. I've been Robert Newman. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Until the next time, I wish you all this success.